At this moment, we've come to the end of our rhododendron and azalea propagation. So as you can see, we've filled up 2 complete sides of the polytunnel. There are some other plants growing in amongst them, but I'm going to concentrate on the rhododendrons and the azaleas for now. At this moment, so it's probably 4 or 5 weeks since we started the first cuttings. At this moment, it's very tempting to go and see if things have actually rooted. The rhododendrons tend to be a bit later, but the scented rhododendrons and the azaleas will have started rooting now. So what you have to do is be very, very careful. You can just try, you just would get hold of a cutting and you can give it a gentle tug. For example, with this one, if you come in closer, Carol, you can see that has got resistance. So that will have started rooting. I'm not going to take one out and show you the roots. I have to admit I've already done it with this one, and it had a nice about a centimetre of roots starting to show on one side, and gradually that will bulk up. I had to put it back in the tray though, so it's not a good way to really treat your cuttings. You could waste some of them. But I know for certain that this is quite a rare one. It's actually Balsamii florum. And that is a point to make, that a lot of this is rare material that has been collected for us by Asher at Carhays and has come over. And it's mixed in with some of the more routine ones like Azalea Fedora, which was the one we were just looking at. That one there. The scented rhodos towards the end have started to root. We have, I'll just read you some of the names actually. Asher has sent the latest lot of cuttings, but Jamie, Mike and Charles would have collected the bulk of this for us. So we have rhododendron impeditum J.C. Williams. That was done on the 2nd of July. I'm not going to test that one. So we've got ovatum, which has this beautiful foliage with this dark red tinge to it. So what we're doing is keeping an eye on them now. We will do the final sweep through probably at the end of November, beginning of December, when we would go through every single tray, and anything that's rooted is then taken off the mist. For the moment now, what we do is keep an eye on them. So it's husbandry. We've got to remove all these dead leaves on a regular basis. We would also, anything that has started to keel over because it hasn't done very well, something like that, we would remove it and we'll get rid of that. As you can see, this cutting here has actually missed the mist coming out of these. So that has probably, there could be something else wrong with it, but it's more likely to be that it's just missed the mist, because this was, when I looked at it earlier today, this patch here was completely dry. As well as this, we have to keep an eye on pests. You obviously, you're going to get the snails, the slugs, things like that, so you have to check underneath the trays and see what's going on. So there's nothing actually here at the moment, which is good, but we have just gone through and checked. We also have quite a big problem in these benches with ants. So we've had to treat them already, and we have to keep an eye on that, because they can then sort of start to nest inside the tray, and it would completely damage the roots. They also can introduce aphids and cause other problems later on in the season. When we're doing the cuttings, we always take the flower bud off, the apical flower buds. So I can see there's a couple at the back that haven't been done. If the cutting isn't ready to have that removed, if the flower bud won't roll off nice and easily, we tend to leave it on, because what you don't want to do is damage the growth beneath that. I will get you a cutting in a minute and show you more clearly, but we would leave it on, and then a little bit later on they will start to drop off. As you can see here, there's quite a lot come off these. quite a lot of foliage, and we need to get that to prevent the build-up of disease and things. And you also will get the odd mouse going through. Yeah, we have quite a lot of scented rhododendrons, which tend to be up this end of the mist house. Again, I'd like to try them, but I better not do that. And we've got some other things I mentioned in between. So it's things like a Butylon vitifolium album. We have Eucryphias, some Eucryphias over there. There's Eucryphia nymonensis nymonsae. And there's some things that root really quickly. So we've got a few hydrangeas, but here, for example, these were only actually done. I have to check. That was the 1st of July. So as you can see, these are euphorbia, but they've got really good roots. Oh, and there's some more euphorbia there. We've got abutylons. And again, you're all the time looking for, well, for example here, whether it could be, at this time of year, it could be caterpillars, or it could be tortrix moth, which you would notice when, particularly, the leaves would be actually glued together like that. And when you gently pull them apart, there would be webbing and a tiny green caterpillar, which it chews, it does a bit of damage, but it's not too bad. It's something that you can see and remove. What else do we have that's really interesting? Oh, yeah, how long ago was that done? Yeah, that's Hydrangea petiolaris. So they've already started rooting. They were done, I haven't got a date on that one, right? I think someone forgot to put the date on that, but never mind. Yeah, everyone has their favourite ones, and I think my favourite rhododendron is actually Spinuliferum. We have some cuttings there. It's a very rare one, really beautiful, very unusual. It can be a bit difficult to get going, and it's quite difficult to keep it going from a small rooted cutting. But at the moment, so these were done. We've got two different sources of these. So some come from Carhays, and some come from a plant that belongs to a member of staff. But that was the 2nd of July. I'm not even going to try those. It's possible that the ones done earlier. No, they haven't. You have to persevere. So that gives you an idea of what we're doing at the moment. We also, in our other tunnels, are getting them ready for other types of cutting. So we're having to go through the soil, replace the soil and the perlite if necessary. We have to do any repairs to the plumbing, and it's also check, like regular cleaning of the spinners, regular cleaning. As you can see here, this needs cleaning. And that is just a deposit that's come through from the water, but that can drastically affect the way the mist system works. So you do have to very carefully clean that. The way we would do it, well, I'll show you with a different one actually, but we would turn it round onto wet and dry on a flat piece of stone, and then rub it very carefully in the similar way to the way that you would sharpen secateurs, where you would do it in a circular movement, so that you don't get those great grooves in it or an uneven surface. And one of the most important things we grow is actually Cornish red rhododendrons. So we get some material from Carhays, and then we've got some stock plants away from the garden that we use to take cuttings from. So we've got small ones here, and I should have looked beforehand because I could have found one that had started to callus, but I do know that some of these have already calloused, and that was done 11th of July. So they were just starting to callus. And then we also have some bigger ones that we put in the tunnel next door. Because these are really important, it's a beautiful tree. It's a rhododendron that will grow, what, 30, 40 feet plus. And you see it all around Cornwall. There's lots of slightly different varieties of it, or variations of it. You can have quite a different range of colours. It's something that we really, really try and get to grow. They're quite rare. But we do have some of our cuttings are consequently about that big. So with that kind of size, we would actually put them into a bench that had peat and perlite or grit to about that kind of depth. And again, there would be heat in the bench and they would be under the mist. This is one of the rhodos. It's really important to keep the upper surface or the area around the upper surface moist rather than letting it ever dry out. They really do need that. So I hope you found that interesting.